What's going on, everybody? It's Ryan Fontenot here once again with the 1 Million Cent podcast, where we are aiming to train 1 million teens around the globe to share the gospel by 2030. And that is why you are here, because you have a passion or want a passion to tell others about Jesus in your life and also help other Christians do the same. So whether you are a pastoral leader, a parent, or even, yes, we love you and you are welcome here, a teenager, we are so glad you're here today, because today I have a very special guest, a great friend of mine, a co-laborer in ministry. We share staff positions at the same church. I guess they still call me staff there. I'm really not sure. We can get into that later. But besides all of that, would everybody welcome my friend and my brother, Danny Rangel. What's up, my brother? You doing good today?
Ryan, man, thank you so much for this opportunity, bro. Excited for this. Man, as I was kind of processing, I remember a couple of months ago, you told me about this 1 million cent. And you know, here at BT, one thing we do at the close of every service is we close off with Ephesians 3:20 and 21, that God can do above and beyond all that we ask or think. And I just feel like 1 million cent is that above and beyond thing, to where, I mean, God might do more than that, and he can do more than that. But I feel like the vision that you are casting with this, is just huge. And I love it. And I love that I get to be a small part of it in this way, to just help the next generation in sharing the gospel, which is a powerful thing in our call and mission. So, man, thank you. I'm excited for this. It's going to be a good time.
Man, thank you, bro. You got me amped up already, bro. Dropping Ephesians 3:20. You know, it's a great reminder, right? Because sometimes our call, or I should say maybe all the time, our call can feel overwhelming, right? Like, I can't do this. And I think that's a great place to be, because if you can do it, then you don't need God to do it.
That's
so
true.
I'm glad we're in a place where both you and I, where we're like, hey, God, if you don't do it, it is not going to happen. Well, man, I'm so glad you're here, and it's morning time right now, and I don't know if you did your workout yet today or not, but man, we're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump in with some rapid fire questions to get us get our jaws warmed up, get our minds sharp, get ready to go. All right,
let's do it.
All right, man. Number one, and I know the answer to this, but I want to hear from you. The world wants to hear from you. Is Danny a coffee guy or an energy drink guy?
Oh, man. Well, I have my cup right here, bro. Cup of coffee, multiple cups of coffee a day, especially now that I'm a new dad of a 7-month-old. So it's like I just had to take the coffee level to the next step. But, man, coffee. And just to share, like, quickly, I feel like 10, 15 years ago, like I lived off Red Bull and maybe Monster. But as I've kind of grown up a little bit, it's been coffee. I mean, I don't know the last time I had a Monster. It's been a long time, but definitely a coffee drinker.
Oh, man, I love it. And he is a coffee drinker. I knew that every time I'm in town or he's in town, we grab coffee together, man. It's awesome. And, man, love that. So that does beg the next question. So are you a morning guy, midday guy, or a night owl, man? When is your most productive time of the day for you?
Oh, 100% morning. Man, it's my absolute favorite thing to wake up as early as I can, 5:30, 6 a.m. sometimes, and grab that cup of coffee, get into God's word, spend time in prayer, just having that quiet time. And, you know, I'm not one to kind of say like, you have to do it this exact way. But when I think about Jesus, you know, early in the morning, right? Mark chapter 1, that he got up. And not to say that everybody has to do it that way, but it's like Jesus did it that way, so let me do it that way too.
That's right.
And so it's a joy, and it's honestly hard for me to like be productive in the evenings. I'd rather be social, hanging out with people. So 100% mornings is where I kind of read my best, and even in writing sessions as well. So I love the mornings.
All right, man. That's great. That's great. Now, when you travel, here's the next question. Are you going to drive to the destination, enjoy the journey, or are you the guy like, let's fly, let's get there. I just want to get to the destination and be there. What are you, man?
Man. So this one's kind of interesting for me, because I love flying. It's great. You know, you get there quick, like you said. I also love driving. But the thing is, like, so just to let people know where I'm from, McAllen, Texas, like way deep south. Like when I tell people I'm from South Texas, they're like, oh yeah, like Houston, San Antonio. I'm like, man, keep going. About another 4 more hours, keep going.
That's right.
So the drive like to San Antonio is like just 4 hours of basically nothing, just ranch land and flat. And so that drive is very hard. But once you get
Yeah.
past San Antonio, like it's very enjoyable. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
at that point, I love driving. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm like right in the middle of both, mainly
Yeah.
because where I live. I feel like if I was in Central Texas, I'll drive everywhere and enjoy it.
That's right.
But I like a nice airplane ride. You get there quick and get to enjoy, your time there a little faster. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
mhm.
for sure, man. I can tell you, I agree with you, man. I'm not driving from Dallas to McAllen if I can help it. Right? I'm gonna
We just
fly
did
every
it a couple of
time.
weeks ago, man.
I know.
We did it for my wife Summer had a little work meeting
Oh my
in
gosh.
Dallas. She works at home and her company has an office
Yeah,
there. And we literally drove to Dallas, had dinner with her company, and then drove home the next day. So it was a very long
bro,
drive.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
driving. That's a lot
it
of
was tough.
driving for
Yeah.
sure. Well, let's say you're going on vacation. You,
Mm,
Summer, the baby, man.
come
You
on.
going to the beach? You going to the mountains, man? Where you headed?
Ah, man. So I would say probably mountains would be awesome because we do have a beach kind of close, so we've been there, a good amount of
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
And
yeah,
mountains is
yeah,
something that we don't really get to experience, and so to do that would be really awesome and just kind of a new experience for us. I feel like also mountains would be a little bit more peaceful, maybe, of just kind of like
yeah.
seeing the mountains and breathing in that fresh air. And the beach might be a little crazy with like all the different visitors and tourists that are there. So yeah, I'm gonna go
That's
with
right.
mountains on that one. Hmm.
All right. I like that, man. I like that. Well, on this trip that you guys are taking to the mountains, you've enjoyed an incredible dinner. It's time for dessert. Are you reaching for
Oh,
pie? Are you reaching for cake? What are you doing?
oh man. I'm gonna go with cake. I mean, I love cake. I've never really grown up being a pie person. If it's pie, it's like just straight up pumpkin pie. Maybe it's something simple in
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Okay. Yeah.
But now I love cake, man. Just give me
All
some
right.
some vanilla or chocolate cake and call it good.
I
Hmm.
love it, man. Hey, easy enough, easy enough. Well, let's get maybe a little bit more spiritual here.
Come
When
on.
you are going in your study, man, when you are just your go to. Now, I know the answer is both, but what's your go to? You like, man, I'm going to jump in the Old Testament, read the narratives, the stories, the
Mm.
history, or I'm jumping in the New Testament, Jesus, the epistles, maybe even crazy, go Revelation. I don't know, man. Where are you jumping into most of the time?
Oh man, I think if it's like a kind of a short Devo time, and just trying to pull
Hmm.
something as I'm engaging God's word, I'm gonna go New Testament. It's
Yeah.
a little easier to chew for the most part. Right now I'm doing the Bible in a year plan, and you have Old Testament and
Okay.
New Testament reading at the same time. And so, just for example,
Yeah.
this morning I'm reading Exodus chapter 29. Consecration of the priests. And it's just a
Hmm.
lot of stuff going on there, man. To where I'm like, okay, how can I pull something from here?
Yes,
But then
yes.
also I read Romans chapter 4 at the same time, just in the daily plan. And
Mm,
it's, yeah, I just love chewing on the New Testament, just kind of
that's
seeing
good.
the journey of Jesus and seeing the start of the church is a beautiful thing. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
man. I love that. So good, so good. And when you're going in that Bible reading plan that brings both in, I think sometimes you see this illumination in the new, from the old, and sometimes you see this thing in the new, you're like, "Oh, I remember that talking about that in the old." So
Yeah.
they definitely cannot be divided or separated, and so it's an incredible deal. All right. Uh let's go New Testament for a second here. So there's four gospels: Matthew,
Hmm.
Mark, Luke, and John. My question for
Mm.
you, Danny, is who you're rolling with. Who's your boy? You can only pick
Mm.
one that you're going to read, that you're going to study. Like, who's your go to guy?
I think I'm going to go Mark.
All right.
Because I think when you go Mark, you also get Peter, right? So because
Come on.
the Gospel of Mark is
Yeah.
ideally thought
Yeah.
to where Peter kind of voiced it out and Mark wrote it
Yeah.
down, and so you kind of get
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
of them and you get both their journeys. And
Mm,
I just love seeing the really the level of urgency in the Gospel of Mark that immediately this
mm,
took place, immediately this happened. So you just kind of see that Jesus was, and you see it with all four Gospels too, obviously, but Jesus was
right.
on that mission and through Mark's language, moving quick,
Yeah,
because the
man.
gospel
Yeah.
is at hand. It's now, so it's time to go. And so I just
Yeah.
love that the pace of Mark of both moving quick, but also Jesus slowing down through his stories. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I love the Gospel of Mark, man.
Hey, my man, you finally, I found someone who had a kindred spirit, who would pick Mark. Nobody ever picks Mark. So that's
Oh
my guy
yeah,
too. I'm
left
rolling with
out.
Mark. Mark and John probably going to roll with those guys, right? So,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
cool, man. Well, here's one last question before we jump into the podcast fully here. And this is one that, man, people have loved to guess on. So if you're listening, we want your response, whether you're watching or you're listening and you're able to write it down. Drop us a comment. Let us know which one you think this is. We'll come back at the end, Danny. Don't answer this yet. I'm going to drop the question, but don't
got you.
answer it yet. We'll come back to it. So here's the question. Danny, are you a dog guy or a cat guy? Don't answer
Oh,
right now. They want to. All
I
right, all right, all right. So
I got your
here's the
answer, bro.
deal. You got to guess, man. You guys write it down. What do you think about my boy from South Texas? Is he a dog guy or a cat guy? Man, I cannot wait to hear. Well, Danny, man, thanks again so much for being on here. I'm excited to just jump into the conversation here and see what God is up to in your world
Yeah,
and really drop some encouragement for people that are watching or listening as it pertains to sharing the gospel. Now, just so people
yeah.
know, real quick, tell us where you are. We know you're a BT church. We know you're in South Texas. We know you're in McAllen, but where are you? What are you doing, man?
I got you. Yeah. So I'm at BT Church right now here in McAllen, Texas. It's a vibrant, growing church. 5 campuses across South Texas, from McAllen, Sharyland area, all the way up to Alice. And my role here right now is I serve as our online and young adults pastor, which has been just
Mm-hmm.
a fun opportunity to be able to be a part of that. Obviously, thinking back to 2020 with the pandemic, it brought a whole lot of change for the church. Several churches were already doing the online ministry, or at minimum streaming their online service for people to view on Facebook or YouTube. But a lot of churches kind of caught on and said, "Hey, let's take this to the next level of ways that we can connect through people and with people through our church online, but also to create content that people can access throughout the week beyond the Sunday
Yeah.
sermon through church online." And so that's just been a task that I've been given. It's been a really fun thing to go after. And then kind of more recently, back, and I think we'll kind of get into this a little bit later, but I did at one point serve as a student pastor here at BT from 2015 to 2018. And then God took me on a different journey that we can talk about in a little bit. But coming back to BT in a different role, and being a part of the church again, so many of my old students are now in college. And so it was kind
Yeah.
of natural to say, hey, let's get together and let's do a Bible study, and we started on Zoom because of the pandemic. And so we started getting college students together. And from there, we started growing our young adult ministry that where now we meet on Tuesday nights and we do a time of worship, time in the Word. And we just kind of felt like somebody needed to help oversee that. And so we had a team of people that were helping in that area. And then more recently, the church, through our leadership team, has said, hey, how about you take over as our young adults pastor? So I was like, man, that sounds great. And so right now, and if you know anything about BT, everybody does multiple things. There's not one person does
That's
only
right.
one thing. And so
Yeah.
serving right
Yeah.
now as our online and young adults pastor.
I love that, man. And here's what I love about the heart of our church down in McAllen and you as well, Danny. And that is, man, hey, we're all in, man. We're going to do what
Mm-hmm.
needs to get done. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
going to work in your gifts and your abilities. And hey, we're not afraid to try stuff. Hey, is this going to work? Let's just see. If it
Right.
doesn't work, we'll make the shift, right, and stuff like that. And so, man, I just love that, and I love your heart for students, the next generation and online. I think all of that goes together, man. You can't
Yeah.
separate
Dude,
really any of
not in
that.
our culture.
And I remember you
Yeah.
and I having many conversations about online church and campus and all that stuff during the pandemic, and just watching BT step into that space and really begin to leverage what God has given us down there to yes, reach the valley, but truly impact the world. It's been awesome to see, man. So
Yeah.
well done. I love what you're doing there. Love what you're doing there.
Hey, I'll share a quick story if you don't mind. you,
Please
you
do. I
know
love
a lot of
stories.
people wrestle with online church, like what's the vision, how do you do it, whatever. And one of the things that we've seen at BT, which I think can bring just a lot of simpleness and hope to a lot of churches that are still streaming their online service,
Hmm.
is it's really a doorway for the people in your community to meet your church, right?
That's right.
And so a lot of people that come to BT in person, they spent 2, 3, 4 weeks watching us online first, and then decided, you know what,
Wow.
I'm going to go in person. And so, because I know a lot of churches wrestle, like, all right, we did it during
Yeah.
the pandemic. We don't need to stream
Hmm.
anymore. We don't need to worry about online. Let's get people back in the room. And that's a great thing. Like, we want physical
Right.
presence in the room. But it's a great doorway to get people to introduce, to your church. And so one day I was at Target, and I was in line at the customer service line, and the lady in front of me like turned around and looked at me and turned back, ahead. I was like, okay, that was different. And then she turned around again, and then turned around again, and I was like, hi, like how's it going? And she said, are you the online pastor at BT? And I was like, yes, I am. I always wear this beanie. This is my signature beanie. I'm pretty sure that's how she
Yeah.
recognized me.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, like me and my family watch online all the time. And I said, oh, awesome. Like you should come visit us, in person. And then I hadn't seen her, heard from her in a minute. And then 2 Sundays ago, there was two teenagers that got baptized, and I had gone up to the baptistry to kind of make sure everything was good. And it was that family. And she's like, hey, our Target
Come
pastor
on.
is what she called me, because I saw her at Target. And they had been coming in person, and now her kids were
Yeah.
were getting baptized. And so it was just a cool moment
Come
of
on.
seeing God use the online digital world to introduce our church to
Yeah.
a family, and now they're attending in person. And so it's a great way to see growth happen. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you
Man,
guys.
that I love that, man. I love that story because a lot of times people don't hear those stories. They don't see those
Yeah.
stories, and they only see one side of online church, digital church, whatever. And we get the same thing with like digital outreach. So like, Ryan, why are you
Mm,
doing TikTok? Why are you doing,
right.
YouTube? Why are you doing this podcast, man? Like, get people to church. And yes, get to church.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not involved in a local church, find one, be part of
Hmm.
one, be a contributor, and man, just let God leverage in that local community. But the truth is, where just our websites used to be our front door, we would say, hey, our website's
Yeah.
kind of our front door for the church. Now, like you said, our video services, our Instagram posts, our Facebook feeds, our videos that we
Hmm.
pop out, all of that's the front door. And people can know, hey, are these my people, really, before they ever step in the
Right.
room? And it
Yeah,
is it
man.
is the front door. So let's stick with this and this digital thing for a little bit, if you don't mind, because that's a
Come
world
on.
you walk in a lot. So tell me this, because one of the parts of 1 million cent is there's no way, well, I shouldn't say there's no way, but the likelihood is I'm not going to be in front of 1 million people live by
Yeah.
2030, right? I see thousands of people every year. But
Hmm.
in order to train 1 million people, we know we've got to leverage digital technology, which is part of what we're
Yeah.
doing with the podcast here. By the way, if you are watching or listening, drop by 1millioncent.com. We have absolutely free digital training there. That's a way for you to get trained without me even being in the room or someone else.
Come
Like, you
on.
can be trained, and you can leverage our training to train others. You're a youth pastor, you're a leader, you're a parent. Hey, there's 6 sessions there. You can take a session a night and Wednesday
Hmm.
night and train your students. So leverage that. So all that to say, Danny, what are you seeing as far as trends or in the digital space? And secondly, what are ways that the church is in large is using the digital space to advance the kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's one of the hardest things about utilizing digital space is with the first question with trends is trends go fast,
Yeah.
especially trends that are like whether they're memes or ways to create content, like that stuff moves quick, and it almost feels like if you're not on
Hmm.
it quick, then you're too late on this.
It's over. Yeah,
But
that's
but
right. Yeah.
but one thing that I've seen, just like and what I would say is this is if you're a church desiring to use digital trends or ways to utilize the digital world for gospel sharing or even just for inviting people to your services, is try to find a young adult that's maybe in those trends a little bit deeper than
Mm,
you might be as a senior
yeah,
leader, senior pastor, and let them run with it. And some of the stuff that they're going to come up with,
that's
like
good.
like it makes zero sense to you, and now I'm
That's right.
I'm feeling that for me is I have a young adult who oversees one of our Instagram pages, and she'll send me some stuff and say, hey, like, is this cool? Because to them it's like it's trendy, it's cool, they're running with it. But
Yeah,
she also, is works well, we work well with each other to where she maybe wants an approval before posting.
yeah.
And some of the stuff, like, man, I don't know what that is. It looks funny. If it's gonna catch a teenager's attention to come to church, I'm in. Let's do it. As
Yeah,
long as it
let's go.
fits some sort of parameters.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
and that's more for like quick posting and inviting maybe. But some of the
Mhm.
trends that I've seen is understanding that we live in a culture where people consume information, they consume stuff at their own pace. Like I would say outside really of like a sporting event or something like the Grammys, like nobody's watching TV live anymore. You
Yeah,
watch content when you want to watch it. It's
that's
Netflix,
right.
it's YouTube TV. Everybody's recording everything, so you watch it at your own pace. You can watch it later in the evening. Fast forward through commercials, so you don't have to see that Burger King commercial over and over again, right? And
That's
so
right.
we consume what we want to when we want to, and
Mm,
so part of what I think the church can do, and that's not really a trend, that's just a lifestyle now. um,
yeah,
is how can we help create content for people to just consume at their own pace, whether that's a podcast, that's a sermon breakdown video, or just a study of the gospel where you're posting quick videos, 5-minute videos here and there, that people can just go to your YouTube and just watch whenever they are able to watch. People who drive to work, or who are at the gym and they like listening to podcasts, like how can we contribute to the content that's already posted into the world of YouTube, that people can access, because there's a lot of good content out there, right? A lot of
yeah,
pastors, a lot of churches that are producing great content. And I think our people, like people that maybe know you and your church, they may want to hear what you have to say, not just what the famous influencer pastor has to say.
that's right.
So don't feel like maybe shame or like, man, no one wants to know what I have to say about XYZ topic. Just post it and to see what
Yeah.
God does with it. And so finding ways to utilize the content that you have, and recreating it to fit a platform. So if you're preaching on a Sunday, you wrote a sermon, it's got 3 points, whatever the case may be. How can you maybe make a 5-10 minute video that's a recap of your message, that people can just watch, utilize as a way of just taking a next step in their faith? So yeah, utilize the digital world. It's right there, and people already on it.
That's awesome, man. There's so many tools available these
Mm-hmm.
days that really can help you in that, because I know people are like, well, I don't have a videographer and I don't have a video editor and da
Oh
da da da.
man,
There's a
yeah,
thousand reasons, but
you
trust
don't
me,
need that. Yeah.
the truth is, man, a lot of people just want raw, real content,
Yes,
man.
and
And
that's a trend right now, especially in
yeah,
the Gen
yeah,
Z world. Is they
yeah,
don't really like a lot of like fully production produced performance
right.
stuff. They
Yeah.
want a selfie video in your car, and they'll listen to
Mm-hmm.
it. So you don't
Yeah.
need, you just need your
Yeah,
phone
that's right.
really
It's
now.
that whole, what is it, the Be Real app right now, man.
Yeah,
So it's
hundred
like that's
percent.
that's what they're
Yeah.
on. So which is really not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to go, hey, you know what, filters off, lights off.
Hmm.
We're just going to go straight up raw. Here we are. And I think there's some real content to that, because truth to that, because say that one of the markers of Gen Z is that they want authenticity, right? They
Yeah.
want people that are real, and when you can put that on camera and you can post that up, you never know when that's going to hit somebody. And so Danny, let me
Hmm.
let me ask you this. Maybe next question would be, and we're just going totally off script here. We have a script that we typically follow. If you've been watching us, you know this, but
Yeah.
but I told Danny we may, because you're in this digital space. That's kind of a world you live in. We have a saying around Rage Ministries: hey, if you're not on their phone, you're not in their world. In other
Mm,
words, if we're not putting content digitally out there that would be on their phone, hey, you're not in their world. Why? Because Gen Z, because millennials, and because everybody nowadays lives on their phone by and
right.
large. So what is a student or a young adult who's going, hey, you know what? I want to leverage my influence, whether I have 50 followers and friends or I have 50,000. I want to leverage my influence. I want to leverage my platform to be a witness. What
Mm.
would be some maybe one, two, three pointers you would share with them in order to begin to be that light, be that witness on those platforms where they are in their realm of influence?
Yeah. One thing I would say first, because you said whether you have 50 or 50,000 followers. Um, be okay with impacting one person. I think
Come on.
the temptation of social media is that if it
Mm,
doesn't hit 1 million views on TikTok, then your video was a failure. And I saw this on a post one day that someone shared on their story. Is like we feel down when we get an Instagram post that has, let's just say 50 likes versus 50,000. But then the post basically says something to the effect of, imagine if 50 people ran up to you and just started applauding you right in front of your face. How impactful would that feel? And it's like,
yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Like 50 people,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot to like a post. You just double click it, right? But
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
took time to stop to read what you said, or a video. They heard what you listened to, and they double clicked it. Like
Yeah.
in our current world, that's somebody that you grab their attention, and that post maybe motivated them, influenced them, or affected them in some sort of way. And
Yeah.
so don't focus on the metrics, especially at first when you're trying to build
Yeah.
a social media
Mm-hmm.
platform. Just focus on impacting someone, and I think that's what Gen Z wants first.
It's good.
Secondly, I would say just share what God is already teaching you, because I think what can happen is we feel like we have to create some other outside content. But it's like,
Mm,
if you are a youth pastor, if you're a senior pastor and you're writing sermons, you're writing a sermon to preach for 45 minutes, right? So you have your intro, you got your points, you got your ending. What I would
yeah.
say is, rather than trying to create new content for your social media platforms, is how can you use the content that you already created and just post it in a different way. So
That's
if you
good.
have a 3 point sermon, and it's about Peter walking on water, and there's 3 things you learned, then you just create simple sliders that say, 3 lessons I learned from Peter walking on water. Slide
Mm,
1, slide
yeah.
2, slide 3.
That's
and
good.
and people may not even realize that was from your sermon, and that's just
That's
the
right.
reality of our
That's
world.
right. Yeah.
Is they heard your
Yeah.
sermon on Sunday, you're going to post this on Wednesday, they may have forgot what you taught about on Sunday,
Yeah.
but then they're going to see that.
That 5 minute little deal may be more impactful than your 45-minute sermon.
Yes, over 100%. And so just repackage your content versus trying to recreate new content, because then you kind of
Mm,
feel the weight of that. But if you already got it, then just go repackage it. And so that's one thing I
yeah.
did, is a lot of my sermons I use Google Docs, and so they're all saved on there.
Hmm.
Is I spent one
Yeah.
day, like probably 2 or 3 hours, went to my Google Docs, went through a lot of old sermons, and just kind of pulled some nuggets, pulled some phrases, some quotes, some points, and
That's
just
good.
started making social media content from the things that God has already taught me. So
Yeah. I love
use your
that.
content to do that, man. And thirdly, what I would
Mm,
say is more than just posting content. Try to interact with people. So if
yeah.
somebody comments on your post, or somebody message you, if somebody shares your content, just send them a quick message like, hey, thank you so much for sharing that, would love to hear your story. And try to find a way to cultivate community through digital platforms versus just posting your content and hoping it hits. Because one, that's going to help your Instagram algorithm, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is the more that you
Yeah.
interact with people, interact with the comments, your post is going to then be exposed to new people. But it's also like it's people. It's still community
Yeah.
behind that profile. So how can you interact with them, spending some time? And what I would say too, as a pastor, is because you can get lost in social media, you can be scrolling for hours. Is set that time to do that. Like
Mm,
set an
yeah.
hour during the day, from this time to this time. I'm gonna post, I'm gonna interact, but then I'm gonna put my phone down, just to create some healthy
Yeah.
boundaries with your digital
That's
world.
good.
So yeah,
Man, I love all of those things. One of the key things I think you said was, like share what's going on, where you at. Well, like for a pastor, that is, hey, you're prepping the sermon. Well, man, use it as well,
yeah,
in other ways. But let me just say this for those who aren't preparing sermons, but maybe they are reading the Word and God hits them with something. I don't think you have to take your phone with you and take selfies every time you're doing your time in the Word. I'm not talking about that. But I'm saying if
right.
God hits you with something, let that truth marinate on you, and then share that out
Mm-hmm.
later in a reel or a story,
Easy.
and go,
Yeah.
hey. This morning I was reading and it's lunchtime now, and I just want to take a second to say, here's what God showed me.
Yes.
And that 60-second, 30-second little truth nugget that God hit you with, and now you've marinated on. you never know who else that's going to
Right.
hit. And so whether you're preparing a sermon or just walking with the Lord, maybe you're a parent and man,
Mm.
you're having a hard time at home with your kids, and you just, obviously, I wouldn't get too specific. You don't want to throw your kids under the bus or anything like that, but I would say, hey, you know what? Today's been a hard day in my home, and maybe you're a parent who is having a hard day at home too. And hey, I just found that I took 5 minutes and just prayed. The scripture says, don't
Yes.
worry about anything, but in everything, put it with all your requests, let them be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. And I just took God at his word today, and I prayed for 5 minutes. And no, everything didn't get magically fixed, but my perspective changed, my attitude changed, so
100%.
sharing stuff like that, I think, is really key. And like you said, you don't have to figure out how to create 100 new posts. Just share
No.
what's going on in your
Yeah.
life.
So,
And
I've been able to talk to some like young adults who are like crazy influencers. They have
mhm,
500,000 followers, whatever.
yeah.
Um, and one time I asked one of them, do you plan out your posts? Do you have like a Google Doc where you're like, you know what, like day one, day two, day three, I'm going to post
Hmm.
on this topic, this, because I
Hmm.
honestly assumed that
Yeah.
this person did. And he's like, nah, bro, like that morning I just read the Bible and, took a selfie video and posted it. And so it, like you said, it's
That's
really
right.
that simple of like as you're engaging in
Mhm.
God's word, God's teaching you and it's impacting you, believe it's going to impact somebody else as well. So just share it however you want to.
Yeah, man, I think that's great truth there. And I've always said it like this. I said, listen, if God told you something, I think most of the time it wasn't just for you. Is
Come
it
on.
for you? Yes, but God is going to use that for you to use that in someone else's life, to bless somebody else with, to encourage someone else with, to, as we said, stir up one another toward love and good works. And
Mm,
so, man, reaching Gen Z and reaching this next generation, I think one of the greatest ways is, man, we have this digital tool in our hand, and I do think you can leverage it as a tool. It makes a bad God, but it's a great tool. All right,
yes,
so
that's good.
so make sure that you can leverage this in different ways. And by the way, again, I'll just tell you, if you don't know how to share the gospel, go check out 1millioncent.com. We teach you a
Mm,
way to digitally share the gospel with what we call emoji evangelism. How
come
do you
on.
take 4 emojis, share the gospel with anyone, anywhere, anytime, really anywhere around the world? And so, well, Danny, let me just ask you this, man. I know you did student ministry. Right now, you're with young adults and online ministry. You already shared a story of the lady from Target, which was awesome, by the way. Is there, as you've gone through life and ministry, is there a story that you could share with us of just what I like to say is, because we like to help people know, hey, people are doing this, people are talking about Jesus,
Mm,
people are sharing the gospel. A story of a teenager, young adult, whatever, who I like to say they just got it. You
mm.
saw the lights come on, they started living on mission, and God used them to be an impact and an influence in their world. Do you have a story like that you could share with us?
Yeah, man. So we have a student. She's a junior in high school, and she's one of our young adult. Sorry, she's a student, and she's on our online dream team. So she helps with
Mm,
like church online, with hosting things like that. But she is one that, like you said, she just gets it. She understands that her social media can be a platform for hope. Specifically,
yeah.
her like target audience is other girls, other teenagers
Mm,
that
okay.
follow her. And so she's got an Instagram page called an Esther Generation.
Wow.
And what she does is she uses that page to really just create carousel content. Carousel content is on Instagram when you swipe through stuff. So
Mm,
she creates little graphics that says, "Hey, here are 5 verses to help with your loneliness.
mm,
Swipe through," type of thing. And so she has a lot of content that she just comes up with through her personal reading time and her studying through different books and things like that. But one of the coolest things she did not too long ago, a couple of months ago, was she had the vision to do an online digital conference. And it was kind of funny too, because she kind of did it on her own. And then I saw it like posted on social media. I was like, hey, like let
yeah.
us know, we can help you, like whatever things we can do.
Yeah.
And she didn't like really think like, oh yeah, like I can use the studio at the church or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I told
Yeah.
her that, she was like, oh wow, like I didn't even think to ask for help, but I'm in, let's do this. And so we got to help her put it on. Um,
That's
but it was a
awesome.
fully digital online conference on Zoom, where she brought in different speakers that spoke on different
Wow.
topics, that came into our studio and did a session on Zoom. And I think there were about like 30, 40 girls that joined that day. It was like a Saturday morning session. And it was just like, man, like
That's
this is
awesome.
like next level stuff of someone who
Yeah.
gets it, who desires to use a digital
Mm.
platform to bring hope specifically to teenage girls, in her, in her story. But man, like she is awesome. I keep joking like, hey, you're gonna take my job one day and take over the online church here at
Yeah.
BT. So just keep
That's
growing.
right. She gonna take my job too, bro. So I
Yeah,
love
no,
that.
she
Oh
is
my
great.
gosh,
Yeah,
that's so incredible, man. And that's a girl who's a junior in high school, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, man, that's just amazing right there, and I love those kind of stories. And so I hope if you're listening today, that encourages you a little bit. It kind of fans into the flame, maybe something you're feeling that hey, you can do this. And even if
Hmm.
you're at home and you just set up your phone, you can be used by God to
Yeah.
leverage your social media. And so this has been amazing, Danny. We're gonna have to reschedule. We're gonna do another one of these, man. Where we just
Come
talk
on, bro.
digital outreach. Me,
I'm in.
you. We'll get a couple other influencers on here,
Yeah,
and
bring
and
him
uh,
in,
and maybe the young lady who's doing the Esther generation.
dude.
That's
Oh, she
awesome,
would
man. I
love to
I
be
love
on
that.
this. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be awesome, man. I love that. By the way, Danny, if you'll share with me that her link later on, we'll make sure we drop that
yeah.
in the show notes as well, so people who want to
I
know
got
what
you.
she's doing can see that happening. But man, before we jump off here, before we jump off, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Maybe somebody in church who's trying to work in the digital realm, and man, they just need another brother in the faith who's like, hey, been there and hit some bumps in the road, ran into some walls. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is great. My handle is, and I can send it to you. You can post it on the descriptions, but
Yep, I'll
at
drop it.
underscore Danny Rangel, and also my email. Drop it on there as well. I would love to just connect with anybody, to grow and learn from each other, really. But
Yeah.
Danny.Rangel at bt.church is my email as well. And so, yeah, either one of those two platforms would be great to connect.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we'll make sure we do that, and we get that posted in all our notes there, man. Man, I love what you're doing. I'm so thankful for your ministry. But before we jump off here, we've got to answer the question. Everybody's wondering, Danny, is my boy Danny, is he a
Yeah.
dog guy or a cat guy? Which one is it, man? Which one is it?
So it's a really easy answer for me. I am. I don't want to say deathly because that's probably a big word, but I am mad allergic to cats, and so I keep cats
Ah,
as far away from me
okay.
as possible. Man, there's been times where like somebody be like, "Hey, man, come help me move. You know, we got some furniture. I'm moving
Yeah.
into a house or an apartment." I was like, "All right, cool. Yeah, I'll go help you." And they got like 3 or 4 cats, and all the dust and the cat hair is everywhere, and my face just swells, bro. And I'm like,
Oh
"I'm sorry,
man,
bro. Someone else is going to help you move."
dude,
And,
that's
and
right.
really growing up, I wasn't really a dog person either, but,
Yeah.
Summer was. She's had a dog, all her
Oh
life. And
yeah.
so we recently, or a couple of years ago, got a dog. And man, she is like the best thing ever. Like just a fun golden doodle, is the kind of dog
Yes.
she is. And she is awesome. And so I kind of became a dog person after that. And now I find myself, if I see a dog at a coffee shop with somebody, like I'll go and pet it, where it's like, I never did that before. So 100% dog, no cats in my house, bro.
There you go, man. That's fair. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I hope you got that right if you guessed early on in the show. And if you didn't, I'm sorry. Nobody wins a prize anyway. So, but we just want to say real quick, hey, thanks everybody for
Yeah,
watching or listening, whatever platform that you're on. I want to just remind you that we are on a mission here to train 1 million teens around the globe to share the gospel. So every time you
come
like,
on.
you share, you subscribe, you know what to do. It really does help us get into new audiences. It introduces this content to new people. And bigger than all of that, it helps us have the opportunity to get the name and the fame of Jesus out there more
Come
and
on.
more. So anytime you can do that, know that you're part of making a difference. We love that you're watching and listening. I love hearing from you and all that God is doing. And Danny, let me just say real quick one more time, man, thanks for being on here. Thanks for taking
Yeah,
time today. And I know I guess we'll connect live sometime soon. Like
let's
not
do it.
live like this, but in person. So
in person. All right, man.
well,
Appreciate this,
guys, once
bro.
again,
I really
yeah.
enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you for being here. I hope you're encouraged today. If this content encouraged you, make sure you reach out to Danny, let him know also. And don't forget this though, above everything else. I always say this, and this is the way we close. Don't forget this. Today is a great day to tell someone about Jesus. So let's go.